Okay, imagine this. You wake up, scroll through X, and see Candace Owens accusing her late best friend's wife of possibly being involved in his death. Yeah, not your average Monday morning headline. This story's got it all. Betrayal, billionaires, private jets that vanish mid-air, and a grieving widow who might just be auditioning for House of Cards. It's giving Dateline meets the Real Housewives of Turning Point USA and Candace Owens. She's not just spilling tea, she's dumping the entire pot on the FBI's carpet. So grab your popcorn, because this isn't politics anymore. It's a psychological thriller with Wi-Fi access. They were supposed to be the conservative power couple of the decade, Charlie and Erica Kirk. He was the firebrand, the face of Turning Point USA, the guy who could turn college campuses into ideological battlegrounds. She was the calm beside the storm. Picture perfect, polished, the woman behind the man who stood for God, country, and viral sound bites. To everyone watching, they were political royalty. America's next Mike and Karen Pence, just with better hair and better PR. But here's where it gets unsettling. The fairy tale collapsed in front of millions. When Charlie was shot during a university event, the chaos was immediate. Screaming crowds, security in disarray, headlines popping up faster than Candace Owens could hit post. At first, it felt like the nation had lost one of its loudest voices, but then came the twist, because this wasn't just random violence. The shooter somehow knew exactly where Charlie would be, what time, and which exit he planned to use. That's not luck, that's logistics. And when a tragedy starts looking like it had a project manager, you know something's off. The perfect couple narrative started to crumble overnight. Fans who were posting prayer emojis on Instagram suddenly started side-eyeing Erica's calm demeanor. Her press appearances felt too polished. No breakdowns, no stumbles, just a flawless performance of grief that made people whisper, is she heartbroken or rehearsed? The conservative world went from mourning to murmuring. What was once thoughts and prayers turned into, wait, what's really going on? Because when the smoke cleared, there was one question floating in the air thicker than the gunpowder. Was this the loss of a leader or the beginning of a cover-up? And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear about the private jet that allegedly went poof right after the shooting. What's this? Because that's where this story leaves tragedy behind and dives straight into conspiracy. Alright, picture this. Chaos at the university, sirens blaring, phones lighting up, and just when everyone thought the madness couldn't get any weirder, a plane in Utah suddenly goes, a private jet takes off from Provo about an hour after Charlie's death. Ghost mode. And somewhere mid-flight, it decides to play peekaboo with air traffic control. 1 minute it's there, the next minute, poof, gone from the radar like it owed the FAA money. Now, according to Candace Owens, this wasn't a technical glitch. This was straight out of a spy thriller. She claimed the plane's transponder, that's the gadget that tells radar where you are, was deliberately turned off. And trust me, in aviation, that's like walking out of Target with the alarm blaring and saying, oh, I didn't know that was illegal. Within minutes, the internet did what it does best, overreact. Suddenly, every TikTok conspiracy page looked like a flight school. People were pulling up radar screenshots, analyzing altitude drops, tracing routes like they were in CSI, Sky Edition. And the theories, wild. Some said it was a donor jet. Others whispered it belonged to a Turning Point insider. One guy on X even claimed it was Erica's escape flight, which, okay, bold statement from a man with a dog filter profile pic. But here's the thing, the timing was eerie. A mysterious plane leaves the same city right after the shooting and then vanishes from radar. Even the most rational people started side-eyeing that flight log. Candace didn't let it go either. Oh no, she doubled down. She posted, planes don't just disappear mid-air unless someone wants them to. And that's when the story went from tragic to tabloid-level cinematic. Because now it wasn't just a murder mystery. It was a manhunt, an internet treasure hunt, and a PR nightmare all rolled into one. And while everyone was zooming in on grainy screenshots of a disappearing jet, Erica Kirk said nothing, not a peep, not a denial, not even a guys, I don't even own a jet. That silence, louder than any statement. By the end of the week, hashtags like #vanishingjet and #wherediditgo were trending, and half the internet had decided we were living inside season 3 of House of Cards. Was the jet a coincidence? Maybe. A cover-up? Possibly. Or was it just another random plane that accidentally flew into Candace Owens' imagination? You decide, but buckle up, because if that private jet gave off something's not right vibes, wait till you see how Erica's public appearance turned a eulogy into a full-blown internet interrogation. Grief hits people differently. Some cry, some collapse, some go silent. But Erica Kirk, she gave grief a whole new definition, one that came dressed in full glam, armed with scripture, and suspiciously camera ready. When she first stepped into the public eye after Charlie's death, people expected heartbreak, maybe a trembling voice, a tear slipping out, something human. Instead, what they got looked more like a political rally. Erica didn't just walk into that stage, she commanded it. Lights, applause, dramatic pauses. It was less widow in mourning and more keynote speaker at a faith conference. And the tone? Powerful, too powerful. She said, they thought they silenced his mission, but they have no idea what they've unleashed. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not something you expect to hear at a eulogy. That's something you hear right before the villain's origin story starts. Online reactions were instant. Half the audience praised her, saying, that's strength, that's grace under fire. The other half said, okay, why does this sound like a campaign launch? And here's where things got unsettling. When people looked closer, they noticed her speech was completely devoid of emotion. Not a single mention of Charlie as a person. No stories, no memories, no he used to moments. Just a perfectly structured sermon about purpose and power. It was polished, poised, and maybe a little too polished. Comment sections filled with phrases like unbothered energy, robotic calm, and she rehearsed that. Clips of her speech spread like wildfire, dissected frame by self-proclaimed body language experts on TikTok. Every blink, every pause, every tone analyzed like she was the main suspect in a true crime series, which ironically is exactly what she was becoming. And the strangest part, she didn't seem fazed. No breakdowns, no interviews, no posts about grief. Instead, total silence. The kind of silence that says, I know more than you think I do. People started connecting dots. The timing, the composure, the eerie lack of vulnerability. It all began to feel strategic. Was she being strong for her husband's legacy? Or rehearsing her new role in the aftermath? Because that speech didn't just make headlines, it changed the narrative. The world stopped calling her the grieving wife and started calling her the question mark. But if Erica's calm performance raised eyebrows, what happened next blew the roof off, because just when everyone thought she'd step back from the spotlight, she didn't vanish into mourning, she stepped into power. You ever see someone show up to a house fire holding gasoline, but swear they're just trying to help? That's Candace Owens in this story. Just when the internet was starting to settle, or at least pretend to, Candace kicked down the virtual door like the plot twist nobody ordered. No press release, no caution, just straight chaos in a cute outfit. She jumped on social media with the confidence of a woman who just discovered the government's worst secret in her DMs. Her tone, calm, her message, not even close. She basically said, forget what you've been told. The FBI is covering up Charlie Kirk's assassination. Assassination, not tragedy, not loss. Candace doesn't do light phrasing, and the internet loved every second of it. Her posts spread faster than a group chat rumor. Within minutes, Twitter, Instagram, and even Reddit were in synchronized meltdown. People weren't just sharing her story, they were building theories off it like it was an open world conspiracy game. Suddenly, the vibe shifted. What had been quiet mourning became a digital manhunt. Keyboard detectives were tracking flight paths, timestamps, body language, and bank records. And right in the middle of that storm, Candace, cheerfully lighting matches, then pretending to be shocked by all the smoke. Critics called her reckless, supporters called her brave, but everyone agreed she'd just hijacked the entire narrative. And here's what made her entrance different this time. Candace didn't act like a reporter breaking news. She acted like a woman on a mission. You could hear it in her voice when she spoke about Charlie. It wasn't gossip, it was grief mixed with gasoline, like she couldn't decide whether to cry or expose somebody. She told her followers, if they're asking us not to question this, that's exactly when we should. Boom. 10 million views later, everyone was questioning everything, and whether you thought she was fearless or flat out unhinged, one thing was undeniable. Candace Owens had turned the story from a tragedy into a televised thriller, and she was the narrator, the detective, and the prosecutor all at once. Now the question wasn't, what happened to Charlie? It was, what will Candace say next, and who will survive it? Because if you thought Candace calling out the FBI was bold, wait till you see who she turned on next. The woman everyone thought was untouchable undeniable, Charlie's widow. And that's when the fire became personal. Every scandal has that one moment when everything shifts, when the whisper turns into a roar. For this one, it wasn't a press leak, a photo, or a confession. It was 5 words. He was betrayed by his pillow. Candace didn't drop it like gossip. She delivered it like prophecy. A mic drop so sharp it sliced through the internet's collective attention span. At first, nobody even knew what she meant. Betrayed by his pillow. Was that code? A metaphor? A merch slogan waiting to happen? But then it clicked. Everyone realized the pillow wasn't just a poetic flourish. It was Erica Kirk. And boom, the internet imploded faster than a political campaign on TikTok, Twitter threads, Reddit theories, YouTube reactors pausing mid-sip like, hold up, did she just say what I think she said? The quote spread like a virus. Memes, mashups, parodies. It went from shocking to memeable to historical in less than 48 hours. And here's the wildest part. That line hit both camps differently. Conservative loyalists clutched their pearls like Candace had just cursed in church. Meanwhile, the drama-hungry corners of the internet said, finally, someone said it out loud. Within days, betrayed by his pillow wasn't just trending, it was the headline. Merch stores popped up with t-shirts, podcasts used it as their episode title, and late-night hosts couldn't resist turning it into punchlines. But behind the laughs was real tension, because this was no longer just about Charlie's death. It had become a referendum on loyalty, grief, and what happens when the internet decides your spouse might be guilty. Erica's every move suddenly looked like evidence. Every clip of her blinking was dissected like a Zapruder film. Her calmness, calculated. Her silence, suspicious. Her speech, too polished to be pain. Candace didn't have to accuse her directly. The internet did that for her. That's the genius, or maybe the danger of a phrase like this. It doesn't tell you what to think. It dares you to think the worst. And Candace, she just watched it unfold. No retraction, no clarification, just an occasional repost, a heart emoji, maybe a cryptic "truth always comes out" caption. Every move fueled the fire while keeping her hands clean. By the end of the week, Betrayed by His Pillow had gone from a line in a rant to the unofficial title of America's newest conspiracy thriller. And while everyone else argued over what it meant, Candace was already hinting that the betrayal went beyond the bedroom, into boardrooms, bank accounts, and backroom deals that could shake the entire conservative machine. Because if Betrayed by His Pillow was the internet's favorite plot twist, Candace's next move was the sequel. And this time, she wasn't just hinting at betrayal, she was naming names. At this stage, Candace Owens wasn't waiting for justice. She'd decided she was justice. The FBI had investigators, Twitter had opinions, but Candace, she had Wi-Fi, Fury, and 10 million followers who treated every emoji she posted like breaking news. She officially entered her detective arc. Trench coat optional, suspicion mandatory. Her social feeds turned into crime scenes. Her live streams became interrogations. And somewhere between caffeine and conspiracy, she crowned herself the internet's newest private investigator. She wasn't asking, who did it, anymore. She was declaring, I'm about to find out. Candace began building what she called a timeline that doesn't lie. Spreadsheets, clips, leaked DMs, plane logs. She connected dots like a woman possessed. Every new revelation came with that signature Owens flair. Half passion, half chaos, all conviction. And let's be real, it was mesmerizing. She spoke with the urgency of someone who just cracked the Da Vinci Code in her notifications. At one point, she even said, if I go missing, you already know why. Fans gasped. Critics rolled their eyes, but one thing was clear, everyone was watching. Candace wasn't just posting theories anymore, she was running a parallel investigation. When the FBI released statements, she fact-checked them live. When journalists tried to debunk her claims, she went on air with screenshots. It was like watching a courtroom drama unfold on Instagram stories. No judge, no jury, just Candace and her conviction. But there was something else brewing beneath the showmanship. Obsession. She'd stopped sounding like a commentator and started sounding like someone personally haunted. Every unanswered question was an insult. Every delay in the case was proof of corruption. And when she finally claimed she had spoken directly to people close to the shooter, the line between reporting and recklessness completely vanished. Supporters said she was fearless, a woman refusing to let truth die in bureaucracy. Critics said she was spiraling, a digital vigilante chasing ghosts in the algorithm. But both sides agreed. Candace Owens had gone full detective detective mode, and she wasn't turning back. Her catchphrase could have been, "Trust me, I've got receipts," and her weapon of choice, the repost button. At this point, her investigation wasn't just challenging the official narrative, it was rewriting it, live, in front of millions. Candace had become a case study in what happens when influence meets obsession. A citizen detective, yes, but one whose magnifying glass was powered by outrage, and whose suspects list included the government, the media, and possibly everyone with a pulse. And if you thought Candace's detective phase was wild, wait till you see where the trail leads next. Straight into the world of billionaires, backroom deals, and power brokers who don't take kindly to being accused by an influencer with a camera. You know how some feuds explode in public? This one didn't need to. It simmered, slow, icy, and twice as deadly, because when Candace Owens and Erica Kirk stopped pretending to be on the same team, the internet didn't just notice, it took sides. What made it fascinating wasn't yelling or name-calling, it was the tension you could feel without a single word being said. Candace had her platform, Erica had her poise, and somewhere in between, the air started to crackle. It began after the funeral. Candace, once one of Charlie's closest allies, was suddenly out of the picture. Not invited, not mentioned, not included. And if you know Candace, you know that kind of silence doesn't sit well. She didn't lash out directly, she did something far more lethal. She let the implications speak for her. Posts like, "Some people perform grief, others seek truth." No names, no tags, just the kind of line that sends entire fan bases into detective mode. Meanwhile, Erica stayed perfectly still, elegant, controlled, and unreadable. Her statements were polished like marble. No cracks, no emotion, no chaos. To some, that was grace. To others, it was guilt disguised as grace. Then came the optics war. Candace wielded emotion like a weapon, crying on live streams, shaking with anger, making her pain visible and raw. Erica wielded composure, high heels, rehearsed speeches, and perfectly timed appearances. They weren't fighting each other directly, they were fighting for the audience. Social media split in half like a bad divorce. Team Candace called Erica a PR machine in lipstick. Team Erica called Candace a walking headline factory. Both were right. The real genius. They barely spoke each other's names. It was an invisible duel. Eye contact through camera lenses, subtweets dressed as sermons, silence framed as defiance. Every gesture felt like a chess move, and for fans, it was intoxicating. They weren't just watching a feud, they were watching two versions of truth collide. Erica represented control. Candace represented chaos. Erica kept everything behind the curtain. Candace ripped the curtain down and set it on fire. But the most haunting part, behind all the drama, there was still a dead man at the center. Charlie Kirk, the ghost tying them together and tearing them apart. His name became their battleground, his legacy their weapon. And in trying to defend him, both women ended up reshaping how the world remembered him. By the time news broke that even Charlie's parents were quietly questioning Erica's behavior, the feud had evolved into something darker, a mirror of how power and pain twist people who live in the spotlight. No punches thrown, no words exchanged, just glances, timing, tone, and a world watching two women wage war with presence alone. But if you thought the feud was explosive, wait until you see what happens when Candace stops fighting Erica and starts swinging at the real power players behind the scenes. Because her next move doesn't just rattle one family, it shakes an entire political empire. If Shakespeare were alive in 2025, he wouldn't be writing Romeo and Juliet. He'd be glued to his phone watching Candace Owens and Erica Kirk play out the world's most sophisticated feud. No swords, no stage, just Instagram and implication. They never yelled, they never argued on camera, but the tension between them could have powered the Vegas Strip. Let's be real, this wasn't your average influencer spat. This was calculated silence versus weaponized speech. On one side, Candace, the storm, fiery, loud, emotionally raw, holding nothing back. On the other, Erica, the still water, polished, composed, and eerily quiet, like someone who'd read the playbook for surviving a scandal and memorized it by heart. It all began with an absence. Candace wasn't at Charlie Kirk's funeral. No speech, no flowers, not even a mention. For a woman who'd once called Charlie a brother, the omission was deafening. And in today's world, silence doesn't calm a storm, it creates one. When Candace finally spoke, it wasn't through rage, it was through precision. She didn't accuse, she implied. Her tone was soft, her words sharp. It's always interesting who controls the narrative when the cameras are off. No names, no tags, but everyone knew. Meanwhile, Erica was playing an entirely different game. She didn't clap back, didn't defend, didn't even blink. She performed composure, every word rehearsed, every outfit immaculate, every appearance controlled. Her calmness became both her armor and her curse. Because on the internet, if you don't cry enough, you're heartless. If you cry too much, you're faking it. And Erica somehow managed to be accused of both. Candace's followers saw it as proof. She's cold because she's hiding something. Erica's defenders saw Candace as obsessed. She's turning grief into gossip. 2 women, 1 dead man, and a million strangers acting like jurors on social media. But the real brilliance of this feud was that it didn't exist on the surface. It lived in the micro moments. Erica posting a photo from her office with the caption, "Moving forward," and Candace responding that same night with, "Some people move on too fast when there's still truth to uncover." Or when Erica thanked the loyal team still standing by Charlie's legacy, and Candace went live hours later saying, "Funny how loyalty gets redefined when money enters the chat." They never acknowledged each other, but every sentence was a bullet with no fingerprints. The feud split the internet like a fault line. Team Candace called Erica a PR-built widow who turned grief into branding. Team Erica called Candace a self-made villain addicted to outrage and clout. Podcasters analyzed tone. TikTokers made side-by-side comparisons of their expressions. Twitter threads looked like FBI case files, arrows, timelines, and red circles around quotes. And then came the power shift. When Erica was named acting CEO of Turning Point USA just weeks after Charlie's death, Candace went silent, but not in defeat. Her silence was the kind that hums with electricity. Everyone could feel it. She was preparing something. A post? A live stream? A bombshell? When it finally came, it wasn't rage. It was a whisper that sounded like thunder. Be careful what power costs you. Sometimes it's everything. That line broke the internet. Speculation went nuclear. Even people outside politics were hooked. It was grief porn wrapped in political theater. And both women knew exactly how to keep the audience watching. Because this wasn't just about Charlie anymore. This was about control. Erica controlled the institution. Candace controlled the narrative, and in 2025, controlling the narrative is far more dangerous. Their feud became a reflection of something bigger, how tragedy becomes content, how image becomes currency, and how silence can scream louder than words ever could. And somewhere, beneath the drama, the heartbreak, and the hashtags, you can't help but wonder, were they both victims of the same system, or just 2 women trying to outplay each other in a story that had already devoured the man they both claimed to love? But if you thought this feud was the climax, buckle up, because Candace was just getting started. Her next move would drag billionaires into the spotlight, ignite a political firestorm, and turn her from commentator into public enemy number 1. You'd think tragedy brings people closer, but in the Kirk household, it did the opposite. It turned grief into a guessing game, because when your family drama plays out on cable news, Twitter, and TikTok, every look, every pause, every prayer gets turned into a plot twist. At first, the Kirks presented a united front, hugging at the funeral, smiling for the cameras, projecting the image of a family held together by faith. But behind those smiles was something colder, quieter, and way more dangerous. People close to the family started whispering that the tension was palpable, that Charlie's parents weren't buying the perfect widow act anymore, that every polite dinner was really an interrogation with better lighting, and that somewhere between condolences and camera flashes, the trust cracked. To outsiders, Erica looked like she was handling everything with grace, calm, composed, in control. But inside the family, that calmness looked less like strength and more like strategy. Her speeches, her perfectly timed appearances, the way she avoided every emotional question. To the Kirks, it wasn't grief, it was performance. And once Candace Owens started dropping her cryptic posts, implying that even the family was beginning to doubt Erica, the internet didn't need confirmation, it smelled blood. Suddenly, private tension became public warfare. Fan accounts started taking sides, conspiracy channels began stitching clips of old family videos, slowing down Erica's expressions like they were decoding Morse code. Even church friends, yes, the prayer group, started choosing Team Erica or Team team parents. It got so bad that one relative reportedly said, "We don't talk about the case anymore. We just talk around it." That's the level of paranoia we're dealing with. Everyone pretending to be fine. Everyone secretly watching everyone else. A family in mourning turned into a political PR department where every hug is for the cameras and every silence is for survival. And let's not forget the irony here. Charlie built his empire preaching unity, loyalty, and faith. And now the people closest to him were splitting faster than the comment section of a Candace Owens post. The parents wanted justice, Erica wanted peace, and Candace wanted proof. But what they all wanted most, and couldn't admit, was control. Control of the story, control of Charlie's legacy, control of how history would remember him, and who would get credit for carrying his torch. And in that tug of war, loyalty became a luxury no one could afford. Every act of kindness felt suspicious. Every conversation sounded rehearsed. Even silence became strategy. By this point, grief wasn't the enemy anymore. Optics were. And the Kirk family wasn't just mourning a man. They were mourning the version of themselves that existed before the world started watching. But if you think this family feud was messy, just wait, because the story doesn't stop with hurt feelings and broken trust. Candace's next move drags this private pain into the global arena, where loyalty means nothing, money means everything, and the truth, well, that depends on who's paying for it. You ever notice how every scandal ends the same way? The noise fades, the cameras pack up, and all that's left is a handful of people pretending to move on, while secretly wondering who's cashing the biggest check. That's exactly where the Charlie Kirk saga lands us, because for all the sermons, speeches, and sob stories, this entire circus boiled down to one thing: money, power, and who gets to play saint while doing the math. The million-dollar question isn't who pulled the trigger anymore, it's who profited from the fallout. Let's run the receipts. Erica Kirk walks out of the storm wearing the CEO crown of Turning Point USA, a foundation swollen with sympathy donations and renewed attention. Candace Owens, she's gone from commentator to cultural lightning rod, trending weekly, turning grief into virality, and never missing a headline. Even the media walked away richer. Every thumbnail, every reaction video, every exclusive leak became another payday in the grief economy. And Charlie, he's no longer a man. He's a meme, a movement, and a marketing slogan. Everyone's speaking for him, but nobody's listening to him. That's the brutal beauty of scandal. Nobody ever really wants closure. They just want the next update, the next twist, the next villain to keep the algorithm fed. Meanwhile, somewhere between FBI briefings and podcast rants, the real truth got buried under hashtags and heart emojis. Everyone says they're chasing justice, but justice doesn't trend half as well as drama, and that's where it gets darkly poetic. Candace built her brand on exposing the truth. Erica built hers on surviving it. And the audience. We're all complicit, sipping from the chaos like it's reality TV with better lighting. So maybe the million-dollar question isn't who's guilty. Maybe it's what are we addicted to? Truth or entertainment? Because if we're being honest, outrage is currency, clicks are confessionals, and somewhere along the way, grief stopped being sacred and became content. That's the world Charlie left behind. A stage where loyalty costs followers, lies sell out arenas, and the truth is whatever story you can monetize first. So what do you think? Is Candace Owens pulling back the curtain on the biggest political betrayal of the decade, or just stirring up chaos for clicks? Drop your thoughts below. And hey, if you're still watching, you already know what to do. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the next twist in this saga is coming. And trust me, you won't want to miss it.